Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video I am going to be reviewing the Smoke Show palette from ColourPop Cosmetics. This is their black 9-pan monochromatic palette, joining the never-ending monochromatic family. When I first saw this palette, I was super excited for it because I've never seen anything like this from ColourPop, from any other brand. Like, I've never seen a full-on black monochromatic palette before, and I'm just like, why hasn't this been done before? Because it's such a genius idea. I'm gonna talk more about it, so if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts, seeing some swatches, comparisons, my 3 looks, the whole shebang, then just continue watching. Alright, so let's just jump straight into the review and start off with some product info. This palette is $12 US, just like any other 9-pan palette from ColourPop. You do get a mirror inside, and the finishes in the palette you will get are 4 matte, 2 satins, and 3 metallics. So what I mean by these satin shades, technically they are matte shades because they work like matte shadows, but these 2 shadows in the corner here, Ignite and Night Dream, they are of a matte base, but they have specks of glitters in it, so I would call it a satin shadow. But you can work it like a matte shadow like I did in my 3 looks, which you will see a little bit later on. But those are the finishes that you will see in this palette. There are 2 existing shades in this palette as well. Let's Do It and Night Dream are already existing. You can buy them in single shadows. Let's Do It, actually you can buy it in a single shadow, but it has appeared in a couple of palettes before. I believe it's in the I Think I Love You palette, and it's also in the Rendezvous palette. But the Rendezvous palette is like it was a limited edition palette last year, so that doesn't exist anymore. So it is already existing in another palette and in a single shadow. I just thought I would mention that. But now talking about my actual thoughts on the palette, like I mentioned in the intro, I do think this palette is a very genius palette. You don't think you would need a palette like this, but I think everybody will get a good use out of this palette. So first off, I think the mattes in here are so unique. Once you guys see the comparisons, you will see that there isn't a lot of comparisons for this palette. It's just something that we don't have. I don't have gray shadows, you guys, and honestly we don't want ashy shadows and gray shadows, but I think this palette would come so handy if you're a person that creates more like creative looks and you want to do some shadowing. Like for Halloween, you just need gray shadows to do some shadowing. You got the black, you got a matte white, like, and all of these shades are super pigmented, and it's so easy to blend. None of the mattes are patchy. They all just work so beautifully. So I think this is a great palette for those of you guys that want to create more creative looks and you want to do some shadowing, some highlighting as well. But on the other end, if you're a person that wants to create something very dark, sexy, smoky, sultry looks, this is the palette for you, because you can create such a glamorous look like this look that I have going on. Actually, all 3 looks are pretty glamorous, pretty dramatic. This is for the dramatic girl, and when you just have all the shadows in one place, it's just so easy to work with. But going back to the mattes have a more of a gray bluey undertone, like almost navy blue. It has different undertones in here, and you can create so many looks and it'll just come so handy. Like, this is a palette I feel like I would hit pan on, just because it's like the necessary shades that you think you don't need. Like, other than your neutrals and your warm tones, I feel like having a palette like this is very key. It is one of my goals for the new year to get back into more creative looks. I feel like this year I've been really focused on my 3 looks 1 palette videos and creating very pretty glamorous looks, and I love that, don't get me wrong, but I do have this creative side on me that I do want to, like, you know, dress up and cosplay and do Halloween looks, you know, and I think for those kind of looks you need a palette like this, and I'm so glad that I have it. Like, I don't have any of these kind of grays in my palette. So yeah, I'm really hyping up this palette, but I do think that it's not for everyone. If you're a person that doesn't, you know, do Halloween looks, and you don't really do like avant-garde or creative looks, and you don't like very dramatic eye looks, and this palette is not for you. There's a certain person that needs this palette, and there's a certain person that doesn't really need it, so it's really up to you and what you do with your makeup. But for a person like me, I adore this palette, and I'm just like, wow, ColourPop did something. I'm sure like brands like Mayron that like specializes in those special effects stuff does have a palette similar to this, but I think for in the makeup industry, like in the beauty community, I haven't really seen anything like this. And maybe there's a palette out there like this and I just haven't seen it. I'm cruelty free. I'm very limited to a lot of things, so yeah. From what I've seen, and for affordable price, for a fabulous formula, this is a really great palette to have on hand. That's my thoughts. That was pretty quick, rapid speed review, hopefully. Now we can get started with the swatches, the comparisons, and 3 looks. So to get started with the first look, I'm going to be taking the shade Ignite, and I'm just going to focus this right at the outer third of my eyes, just really packing on the color there. And then once you have like little to no product left on your brush, that's when you want to start working the product into the inner part of your crease. But mainly you just want to see the shadow at the outer third just to really deepen out that outer corner. Next, I am taking the shade Young Love, and I'm going to place this at the inner third of my eyes just to get that contrast going on. This is a complete matte eye look, so just using a white shadow at the inner third is going to really highlight that area. You can see that I'm also taking it towards my inner corners as well to highlight my inner corners. Now I am taking a liquid liner. I'm just going to use this to line my lash line, and then I will be taking a gel liner to create my wing. I'm just creating a standard wing, nothing new here. But then I will take the shade Let's Do It from the palette, and I will start using this to smoke out my wing. So the way I like to smoke out my wing is first just going over the actual liner and then slowly work my way up. Because we are using black, it is a bit trickier to work with, so you just want to go in with a small amount first and then build it up. You can see that I am just swiping left and right, just really diffusing it out. I go in with a pencil brush as well just to help further blend, but you can kind of control how smoky you want your wing to be. I wanted this look to be super dramatic, so I took it pretty thick. It kind of covers up my whole lid space, but you know, I wanted to do something very dramatic. Now I am going to be creating a fake inner corner. So with my eyes, I do not have like an actual inner corner. It does fold a little bit, so me creating an inner corner is quite tricky. It's actually quite hard to explain, so I'm going to try my best to explain, but I think it's best just to see how I'm doing it. And I think every eye shape is different, so the way I do it is not necessarily how you would do it on your eyes, but hopefully this will help some of my Asian sisters out there. But I pretty much just create like a triangle pointing towards my nose bridge, and then I kind of drag it up towards my lash line. And because of the way my eyes fold, I have to like take it quite high up so that when I look up, it does look like a new inner corner, if that makes any sense. I'm going back into the shade Let's Do It, and I'm just going to wash this all over my lower lash line, just like from the outer corner right to the inner corner. I'm just going to get a good diffuse, evened out blend of the shadow on my lower lash line first, and then I'll go in with a definer brush to really connect the wings, especially at the outer corner and right at the inner corners with my new fake inner corners. So you want to make sure you are connecting all the blacks together so it looks like one cohesive look. And lastly, what you want to do is just take your eyeliner and tightline your bottom lash line, and that is pretty much the look completed. And this, guys, is the first look completed. We're just starting off this video very dramatic. I think this is probably one of the most dramatic eye looks I've ever created, but I love it. It's just something different from me. I typically don't like to draw a new inner corner because it's very hard on my eyes, so this was a bit of a challenge, but it was also very simple. We literally only used 3 eyeshadows. But yeah, for my lashes, I am wearing the Demure Light from House of Lashes, and for my lip pairing, I went with the Luxe lipstick from COLOURPOP. ColourPop in the shade What's Your Sign. I think for a dramatic eye like this, you need to pair it with a nude lip, or it's just a little bit too much, if you know what I mean. I hope you guys enjoyed this first look. Super dramatic. I love it, so I hope you guys love it too. Now getting started with the second look, I'm gonna start off with the shade Stone Face, and this is going to be my transition shadow. It is a very light transition shadow. It almost blends in with my eye base, but nonetheless, we're gonna work this in our crease area using windshield wiping motions. You will see it slightly, but it is pretty light, but it is necessary for a smoky eye. Next, I am taking the shade Slated, and I'm gonna first pack this on my lid space first. This shade is super pigmented, so you don't need a lot on your brush. Just take a little. It's a very dark shadow, so we wanna work little by little, step by step. So just packing this shade onto my lid space first, and then I will slowly blend up towards my crease area where the transition shadow is. You wanna start blending up towards your crease area once you feel like most of the product has left your brush, because we do want that gradient effect. So making sure we are taking our time blending, going back in with our previous brushes, just going back and forth, really building up that shadow. Now I am taking the shade Night Dream, and I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing, but this time with Night Dream, I'm not going to take it up too high into my crease. It's mainly going to be my lid shadow. Next, I am taking the shade Smokin', and I am literally just placing this all over my lid space from the outer corner, inner corner, and the crease area. It's just going to be that all over glitter shade, and it's super pretty. I am not using it wet, because if you were to use it wet, it's going to come off more metallic, but when you use it dry, you'll really see those glitters peek through, and when you tilt your head, you will see those glitters come out, and it's just super pretty. Definitely one of my favorite shades in this palette. Now I'm just going in with a liquid liner. I'm going to use this to line my upper lash line, and then I'll go back in with Night Dream, and I'm going to use this to kind of smudge out that liquid liner and also create my wing. I think this look you definitely could do like a normal standard wing with your liquid liner, gel liner, but I wanted to create something very smoky just because, you know, it's the Smoke Show palette, why not? So I did use an eyeshadow to create a very dramatic wing. Going back into the shade Slated, I'm going to run this all over my lower lash line from the outer corner right to the inner corner, making sure at the outer corner you are connecting the shadow where the wing is so the eye look can come together as one. I'm also going to take the shade Let's Do It, and I'm going to press this up against my bottom waterline to really define that bottom lash line, because we want the eyes to be evened out. We don't want the eyes to be too top heavy, if you know what I mean. And just taking a black kohl eyeliner, I'm going to use this to tightline my bottom lash line. This one is from Sigma. And lastly, I am using Young Love to highlight my inner corners, and that will pretty much complete this second look. So this, guys, is the second look completed. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is the perfect weekend going out makeup look. It is so dramatic, and I think because of the little sparkles and the smoky eye, it will really catch the light in low lighting when you're just going out, having a drink. It's super pretty, very dramatic, very glam. I love it. So I hope you guys love it too. And finally, for the last look, I will be taking the shade Ignite as my transition shadow. I'm gonna work that straight into my crease using windshield wiping motions as always. I am going to be taking this transition shadow quite high up, blending that up towards my brow bone. Now I am taking the shade Slated, and I'm gonna first work this in the outer third of my eyes just to get the pigmentation there first, and then once the product has left my brush a little, I will bring that in towards the inner part of my crease. As always with half cut creases, you do want a lot of product in that inner crease region just because you want the half cut crease to contrast against something very dark. And when we are playing with this palette, it is very easy to create such a dramatic half cut crease because we're literally playing with black and white, so that's like the biggest contrast you can do. So just make sure you are working that in towards your inner crease. Now I am taking the shade Let's Do It. I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm gonna try my best to not bring it up too high up, like overtaking the previous shadows. So technically it's the same technique, I'm just trying to focus it a little bit lower. This is a full-on black, so make sure you are taking a little working step by step because it is hard to get rid of black shadows. So just making sure you are taking a little bit on your brush. Now I am taking the P. Louise base and I'm going to use this to cut out my half cut crease. I'm going to place that right at the inner third of my eyes and kind of map out the shape of my cut crease. I'm just following along the natural curve of my eye shape. Then I will take a very thin paintbrush and I'm going to use this to really carve out my crease and make sure everything is super precise. For the star of the show, I am taking Starstruck and I am going to use this shade Wet because I want this to be super metallic, and I'm going to place that right on top of that P. Louise base to really cut out our crease. Honestly, this shadow is so metallic, so pigmented, you probably could use this alone to cut out your crease. Like, you wouldn't even need a base. It is super blinding, it looks like metal, so it is just a very Starstruck shadow. I'm going back into the shade Let's Do It and I'm gonna use this to help blend the metallic shadows into the matte. Just by tapping where they meet, it's going to help diffuse those shadows and give a very soft diffused blend. Now it is time for eyeliner. I'm using a liquid liner to line my lash line and then a gel liner to create my wing. As always for cut creases, I always want to do like a standard wing. It's not smoked out, very dramatic for a very dramatic eye look. Now I am going back into the shade Slated once again and I'm gonna run this all over my bottom lash line. I want this to be very smoky and diffused out, so we are bringing it a little low. And again, going back into the shade Let's Do It, I'm going to press this up against my bottom waterline to really define that lower lash line. I am now just taking a black pencil kohl eyeliner and I'm going to use this to tightline my bottom waterline. This eyeliner is from Sigma. Alright guys, so this is the final look completed. I hope you guys enjoyed this very dramatic half cut crease, but I love how it turned out. I think the shade Starstruck is definitely a beautiful shade. It's very eye-catching, so yeah, I am really happy with how this half cut crease turned out and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Alright you guys, so this is going to conclude today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for waiting. I am slowly but surely pushing out all of my ColourPop content that I have been falling behind on because every week there is a new collection coming out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys and I will see you in my next video. Bye!